safety is vitally important. We've had so much go wrong on the infrastructure side. We have a major water main break every minute in the United States, something like that.
Yeah.
You got to do something different. You know, you've got a lot of systems that are pre-World War I wooden pipes.
Welcome to the Make Water Work podcast, where we dive into the people, ideas, and innovations shaping the future of water. I'm your host, Isaac Pellerin, and alongside my co-host, Megan Glover, the founder of 120 Water, we bring you insights from hundreds of incredible conversations we've had over the past 9 years with inspiring and energizing leaders in the water industry. Each week, we share those stories and conversations with entrepreneurs, community champions, and innovators who are making water work for everyone. Whether you're a water professional, a curious innovator, or simply passionate about our most precious resource, this podcast is for you. Let's get started. Sometimes you have a guest where the conversation just takes off. You just have amazing conversational chemistry. That's what happened in this episode. So kind of forget to do some of the basics like actually introduce them. So today's episode is with Damian Georgino, a partner at Dentons, one of the largest law firms in the world, where he spent more than 25 years advising some of the biggest names in business, Fortune 50 companies, financial institutions, private equity funds on complex transactions, everything from water, energy, infrastructure, and everything in between. So hundreds of deals, M&A, capital market, he's done it all. What makes him unique is that he's not just a lawyer. He's been a managing partner, chief legal officer, strategic advisor to multi-billion-dollar funds, and he sat on all sides of the table. And what was so amazing about this conversation is we got a big chunk of his time and focus in water. And so that's the conversation that you're going to get to listen into.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us on the Make Water Work podcast, where we get to interview and talk to the leaders who are shaping the water industry. And Megan, who do we get to talk to today?
Well, I think first, we are very excited to have our first in-studio guest, who I have a very esteemed pleasure of introducing, Damian Georgino. And Damian, you've been a friend of 120 and a personal friend of mine basically since day one of starting 120 Water. And we met through the Imagine H2O network and have kept in touch. But Damian is a veteran in water and the water industry, current partner at Dentons. And we'll talk a little bit about that practice right now. But you've been in counsel, you've been in private practice, but I mean, you've really been in the forefront of some of the most impactful capital transactions in our industry at a very high level. And so we are just very excited and honored to have you in studio today to talk about all of the things. So welcome, Damian.
It's a pleasure to talk with you guys.
Yes. So we do have a kind of a standard opening because we find it fascinating to hear everybody's personal story about how water found them. So, Damian, would you mind sharing, how did water find you?
It was forced upon me. I think it's the best.
First.
Is the first time, and it is intuitively alluring, right?
Okay.
I was a young lawyer doing transactions inside of a company called Alcoa. Alcoa had acquired a number of water businesses under one platform, and the CEO came in and said, "Yeah, get these off my balance sheet." Alcoa, he wanted Alcoa to become a vertically integrated aluminum company, you know, from mining bauxite to aluminum refinery to aluminum to downstream products from there. And they had, in the 80s, had collected all these non-aluminum businesses.
Sure.
And the CEO was Paul O'Neill, who became the Secretary of Treasury, who said, "Get these off my balance sheet." And I was responsible for selling those businesses. And over 15 months, we sold all 5 businesses to an upstart company at the time called U.S. Filter. And the fellow who founded U.S. Filter, the visionary for U.S. Filter, Dick Heckman, we kept a dialogue after the transactions. And shortly thereafter, I ended up joining the company, U.S. Filter, in its early days. And when you start listening, when you start learning about water, back in those days when the water space really didn't exist. It is, as I said, alluring. It sucks you in. It gets you to think about things a little bit differently, rather than in the context of established businesses, but in the context of a segment,
Yeah.
water, that is roughly estimated to be $1 trillion annual revenue throughout the world, probably larger, growing at triple GDP rates,
Yeah.
inside of an environment where itself water is a fixed supply and ever increasing demand. So you just start looking at all that and look at where people play in water. And from my perspective as a transaction person, looking at where people want to get invested.
That's right.
Where they want to sit on the right side of the balance sheet, where they want to sit as far as technology is concerned, or where they want to sit as far as energy and infrastructure is concerned. You put that all together, and it's a multivariable formula.
Yeah.
Maybe a simultaneous equation solving sort of thing. But for me, it's intellectually challenging, alluring, and you guys have heard me say forever, you can't have energy without water, you can't have water without energy, and you can't have economic development without both.
It is.
And so as you look at where the world is right now, water is critical to the future of not only life itself, which is kind of a nice way to say it, but really vital for any business.
Yeah. Yeah. You, I credit you because you have one of my favorite quotes that I've ever heard in water, which is, I can make a justification that any business is a water business.
That's right. That's right. Somehow or another, there are a couple of interesting companies out there that are looking at valuing water.
Yeah.
How do you value water? Something, is it of infinite value? Is it equal to the value of life itself, or should it be free? And so figuring out where the value is and where it fits inside of your business is something that everybody has to consider. It's part of sustainability. It is the resilient of resiliency, right? It really is, and I'm obviously biased, but it really is something that you have to consider. We look at citing new businesses, whether they're hyperscalers, whether they're chip plants,
Right.
A very large piece of the consideration of where you locate and how you operate revolves around water.
Yeah, that's right.
And we have 150 years. We've had centralized water treatment systems. We've had chlorine, saved millions of lives. It's now becoming maybe obsolete.
Yeah.
I would love to pull on that thread a little bit as you think about the evolution of water. You mentioned chlorine. How has that evolved to go from treatment centralized, and then we've had other conversations about how do you move into decentralized water and kind of the value of that and where you're seeing that in different places across the world.
So I kind of go back to looking at whenever energy was deregulated, and the big scary ghost was, prices are going to go through the roof. We're going to have monopolies. It never happened. In fact, we ended up with energy prices kind of stabilizing, maybe actually flat on a valuation standpoint. And we moved from, if we needed more power, to building bigger power plants or newer power plants with bigger transmission distribution lines, new transmission and distribution lines, to something where we started creating the electrons locally, whether that was cogen, whether it was something else, solar or otherwise. But we moved to a model that was a decentralized energy model, where the energy doesn't get created centrally, it moves elsewhere. And that helped with a lot of new technologies came in vogue. And so you've moved to this decentralized energy model. I think that's where the water market is heading. Now, 75% of the cost of moving water from a centralized creation, whether it's wastewater, moving it to wastewater, or taking it out of a potable water system, is energy. Water weighs 8.33 pounds per gallon. You got to pump it. And then you go to a building. You go downtown. You got buildings. They're small cities. And it makes a lot of sense to start thinking about, why don't we just keep the water local?
Exactly.
Why don't we do recycle, recirc, reuse?
Absolutely.
And then you avoid all that stuff. The technologies exist. But more importantly, you start looking at recycling water rather than getting new water. It's more, it is certainly easier to a certain extent, for businesses, manufacturing and otherwise, to look at it that way, because water has a cost to them. Water is used in their systems, and it's a lot, and with a lot of their ESG goals, it's easier to keep things in place. You become a good corporate citizen.
Right.
You don't have to tug on the local water, municipal water systems. You don't have to worry about what's in your outfall going back to the municipal system. And it becomes a much different play for industrial users rather than municipal. And it also, now with the advent of a lot of the infrastructure funds that are coming out there, they like those long-term contracted revenues with businesses where they can go and finance it and get a maybe not a 20% IRR, but a lot of the infrastructure funds are perfectly happy with mid-teens. They love 20%. Everybody wants to get to the magic 20%. But it makes sense for them because it's a predictable market, and you can have different technologies come in to make the system more efficient.
Right.
You can have a collaborative working arrangement with the manufacturers so that you have this constant feedback. Hey, I'm getting an excursion that's coming out of here. Do you want to check up your pipe, if you will, in your manufacturing pipe, in your manufacturing system? Is there something going on in there that's out of control, one of your systems? So it has a lot of benefits and more immediate ability to implement in the industrial side.
And I think, maybe for some people listening that may be a little bit adjacent to water, say, oh, that sounds like a very futuristic, novel idea, but this is actually being put into practice. I mean, Damian, when we were in New York in Climate Week and with the Science Capital event, we heard from the person in San Francisco, I believe, that they've started permitting a lot of the permits for this kind of circular type of water economy for commercial use, right? And I think there are many benefits that it's a wonderful program that I think they're kind of yielding some really great, not only sustainability goals, but it just seems that that's the natural progression of the way that we need to.
The technologies do exist,
right?
And the technologies. I mean, even there's the sayings that go around that the water we're drinking right now, has been through dinosaurs, right?
Right.
And you look at the Colorado River, and people at the tail end of the Colorado River, that water's taken out and put back in. I saw one stat that said that by the time it gets to San Diego, it's been through another human being 274 times.
That's fascinating.
And the reality of the situation is that the technology already exists to make the water that goes back into the river cleaner than when it comes out of the river. So the technologies exist. It's just a will and a desire and to get to the economics that makes sense.
Okay, so let's unpack that. So it's the economics. Is it the need for capital? Is it the need for more businesses to exist? What do you think it's going to take?
That's a great question. So I think it is happening. I think there's a lot of, let me back up a little bit. I think there's a lot of investors, particularly limited partners that are invested in private equity, who want to be in water. But as we started the conversation, it's so huge they just don't know where to tip their toes into, so to speak. But I think the reality is you have to recognize your check size, you have to recognize your risk profile, and there are plenty of opportunities inside of that. So, for example, infrastructure investors, a lot of infrastructure investors, they like contracted revenues, they like de-risked transactions, they like counterparty creditworthiness. You put all that together, and that focuses you more probably on industrial than anything else. Versus where I think one of the bigger needs is the younger companies, the technology companies. The knock on the water industry is it takes so long to develop up the technologies to get them adopted on the municipal side. And there's not a whole lot of institutional venture capital.
You mean there's not patient capital out there abounds? There's not patient.
There's no such thing as patient capital. Patient capital. I'm not certain about that.
Yeah. I mean, there's no such thing as patient capital, period. But then you layer on selling into the municipal market, which is not only not known for its speed, but almost this fear of innovation. Innovation's a naughty word, because they're bonused on security, and we've done it this way for 20 years. Why would we change?
So I I agree with you. There is that notion. I think I look back and when we started talking about chlorine.
Yeah.
Chlorine, ubiquitous. Everybody uses it. Everybody hates it, right? It's nasty. It's hard to handle. If you have rain out here in Indianapolis, you're taking a shower. It smells like chlorine sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So nobody likes chlorine. But 25 years ago, the new innovation was UV.
Yes,
right?
that's right.
The efficacy is much better than chlorine. You don't have the same issues. You have a little bit more energy cost associated with UV, but the efficacy is much better than chlorine. How long did it take to get that into the market? It was a long period of time. But now it's kind of like everybody has UV. It's accepted. How do you cycle that down? And you're correct. It's getting, whether it's a municipal operator or an industrial operator, getting them to understand the technology, getting somebody. There are some change leaders out there on the municipal side.
Like who?
Yeah, let's talk.
Orange County Sanitation.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
DC Water. I think those types of companies, large organizations, granted, that have adopted, are early adopters of some of these some of these technologies and are willing to look at it that way. So there are some change leaders.
Yeah.
But I think your adoption rate is quicker on the industrial side than it is on the municipal side.
Oh, absolutely. Side note and shout out actually to one of my friends that I went to college with. They started this company called Pluie. We're taking a total sidebar, but your UV is here's an interesting application of UV and sanitation. They actually are revolutionizing childcare products because they are putting UV into those dirty changing tables in all public spaces, and they're leveraging UV technology. So every time you close the changing table drawer, the UV light comes on, kind of sterilizes it, and then it's ready for the next person. Like, how brilliant and cool, right?
Well, but take it to the municipal level. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, okay. And don't call me old.
I would never.
Never.
But take it 25 years ago. You're going into Indianapolis, okay? You hear UV, okay? What's UV? UV is a black light.
Oh,
Right? Yeah. And so you go to this guy and say, you've been using chlorine forever. Yes, it works. Yeah, it works. We've been doing it forever. Do you like working with it? Oh, can't stand working with it. It's dangerous, yada, 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 yada. Well, I've got something for you. What's that? I'm going to wave a black light over your effluent and disinfect it that way. Hey, look what time it is. I got to go. That's kind of, because a lot of these, let's face it, there was how many thousands, tens of thousands of systems. Yeah. A lot of them don't have the resources.
That's right.
to evaluate technologies. And, they look at the state to give them what they have to do, state and federal, as far as regulatory environment is concerned. And it ends up being a minimalist. I only do that which I can do because I don't want to do something wrong for my constituents, but I don't want to increase my cost because everybody's rate is rate conscious. And maybe that's an issue in and of itself. Maybe the issue is how
the opportunity too.
How we calculate rates.
I agree,
how we calculate rates based on return on capital deployed. Is that the right measure?
And how we better understand the data of the supply chain of our chemicals and how are we optimizing treatment to be as optimized as possible. I think there's a lot of opportunity. A lot of opportunity there too.
Yeah.
And then the fear of raising rates, again, I go back to what happened in the energy grid. That didn't really happen when you get a profit motive to sit on top of all of this. And I'm not, I understand the counter arguments to all of this, but when you have somebody who's not reactive and saying, tell me what to do, but more in front of things and saying, here's what I can do. I have to get a fair return for my capital. But that's true in any nonprofit, even, the American Society of Civil Engineers rated our water infrastructure D- out of all the infrastructure. So that includes airports, highways, broadband systems. It got the worst of all those infrastructure assets. There's only one you cannot live without, and it got D-. Maybe we're looking at it wrong.
Yeah. So speaking of looking at it wrong, you also hold my second favorite quote, which I know you're going to, what is this? In water, which is the tap is actually not where water happens.
Okay. Yes, that's right. Right.
Right. And when you think about it, that's actually the finished product. There's a whole value chain and multiple economies that lead to us as consumers going and turning on the tap and benefiting from this finished product, right? And I think, for the average person listening who may not be familiar with what it all takes, to go in to turn on that tap, educate us. Why do you say that that's not the finished product? I'm sorry, that's not actually where it happens.
Well, a lot of reasons. Number one, if you look at that $1 trillion spend, it's everything from water as a natural resource to, the point of use. I think everybody gets used to just turning on their spigot and the water shows up. Flushing your toilet, the water shows up. Filling my pool, the water shows up. But you never really appreciate where it comes from, what it takes to get it there, and how many different draws there are on that water. It's not, I think, if I have my stats correct, if you look at the state of California, state of California, and you hear a lot about residential users, their rates going up over time. By volume, only California's 50 million people, close to 50 million people. Of all the water that's used in the state of California, only 8% goes to residential use.
Let's pause on that. Only 8% of all the water use in California.
That's
wow.
And tying it in, because we talk about the water, energy, food nexus.
Yes, sure.
And infrastructure. You got to throw infrastructure on top of that. Something on the order of 27% of the energy that's produced in the state of California goes to pumping, treating, delivering water. It weighs 8.3 pounds per gallon. Wow. And if you think about the energy draw with all the energy that California needs, and including data centers and chip plants and things like that, you start to understand that water from an aquifer, the ocean, desal, a river, wherever, when it comes out, then you get in the middle of the bell curve where it starts, people start drawing on it, and it comes into your home after somebody else has tugged on it, or you need it for something else. It's about choices, I guess, at the end of the day when you look at that bell curve. But we're at the end whenever we open the faucet, when you have everything in between where industry needs the water,
agriculture needs the water. Yeah.
Our friends at Bluefield Research had a chart that I thought was fascinating. I think it was last week or week before, where they showed that 47% of the water used, I can't remember if it was California or just the desert Southwest, was for agriculture.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And most of that was for feeding animals.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Right?
When we lived in Southern California, we grew alfalfa.
Yeah.
A lot of that alfalfa went to Japan to make Wagyu beef. It's water exporting. We're exporting our water. So, that's my point.
I love it.
I try to get people to think about, what it takes to deliver that water, to never look at water the same way. Because if you look at it as, it's like air.
Exactly.
And air, there's a cost associated with air. We have, pollution standards. There's a cost associated with it, but you just breathe it in. You just breathe the water.
Yeah. It's almost devaluing the actual good. You know what I mean?
So Benjamin Franklin said it best. You'll know the worth of value you'll know the worth of water when the well is dry.
Yeah.
Oh. So let's speak. You went there. So you mentioned
it. Is it
it.
my fault?
Let's talk about bleeding the well dry and another draw on water, which is all we can talk about right now in our industry, which is AI and data centers. Where are you in the continuum of this is going to be a good thing for the industry, this is going to kill the industry? Where do you sit on
for AI or for data centers?
Okay, let's start with data centers. They're both. Let's do data centers.
Yeah, data centers.
AI is not going away.
So data centers, there are a couple of ways of looking at data centers. Excuse me. The first is that they use a lot of water. Directly use a lot of water. I saw a report that said by 2028 or something like that, the use of water, and that's for cooling. You use it to cool these servers get hot. You have to cool them. So the direct use of water is is going to be something like 1.5 trillion gallons a day.
Wow.
And I think that might be just for the U.S.
Do you know where we are now? I mean, in an
we're
order
close
of
to a
magnitude.
trillion.
Yeah.
So we're getting there. We're getting there. But you saw Oracle came out and said we'll need 2,000 more data centers by 2030 or some such number. It's a massive amount of water. That's just the direct usage. Now, there are a lot of people that are saying, look, we can recycle, recirc. You don't just draw and send it out because heat is a pollutant under EPA rules. And you're now looking at taking water to the chip with some of the more advanced chips.
That's right.
Taking the water right to the chip. But there's a direct usage, and that's not going to go away. It's not like these data centers come up with new technology and the existing data centers don't go away.
Right.
They stay in place. So you'll have that new draw that we never had before. We never had that draw on that water usage. And a lot of the data centers are going into water short areas.
That's right.
Reno, above Reno. Here in Indianapolis,
that's right.
You know, there's a
In our Leaf District.
kerfuffle over that. Yeah. So no matter where you go, it's an additional draw on water. Can they get to a point where you reduce the amount of water? Yes. There's a lot of the hyperscalers as well as the off-takers, the Mag 7 and things like that are talking about a net zero. They're talking about net positive. Not certain you'll ever get there because the other side of it is the energy piece of it.
Yeah.
The indirect use of water on the energy side, which can be as much as 40% more, just because 40% of the cost of energy is in water.
Yeah.
And so I think you have for a lot of these technologies, other than solar, but you do have to use water to clean the mirrors and things like that.
Everything comes back to water, right? You need water.
I can make anything water come. So I think there's the direct and indirect use. It's going to be an issue. It's going to be there. We do a lot of economic development for hyperscalers and for chip manufacturers, for a lot of other industries that come in. One of their first questions is now, what's the availability of water? We did a project in North Carolina where it was I tend to not disclose clients only because there's an ethical issue around that. But they came in and said we want to be we don't want to be tied to the municipal system. And so they instituted a recycle, recirc, reuse system. They had to obviously pull in water, but they didn't want to discharge water back to the system because they wanted to be a good corporate citizen. So economic development, which includes data centers, needs water. And managing and developing those relationships, understanding how it's used, I think is vitally critical. So that's the data center side. It's not going away. It's only going to get bigger. You go around the world, it's exacerbated in places like the Middle East. But where you're here in Charlotte, or excuse me, Indianapolis, it doesn't matter. Ubiquitous. There's only a certain amount of water.
That's right.
And you have to, you aren't water rich necessarily. You do have water, but is it water rich is a different issue. You still have to be sustainable. You still have to be considerate. AI in water, in water technology, I think is absolutely critical to the future success. It's an intelligence that right now I think we're just getting familiar with. I think there are a lot of really nifty applications for AI. So a couple of the companies that I work with have these new AI/ML, I guess is a better way to
there you
look
go.
at it. Where you've got all these sensors out in the field, you've got an ERP back here. They bridge the gap.
That's right.
They read the sensor, turn it into actionable information.
It's a brilliant application.
Take it back into the ERP, and things happen, right? And those things that happen make the system more efficient, but also you're not adding a bunch of CapEx, which again goes back into the rate structure, but it's more of an operating model, and it's an inexpensive model. And some of the great stories around that are taking a large city on the Mississippi, actually it was the Ohio, that had a problem where they were 80+% non-compliant in their outfalls. It was largely because it would rain and things would go in. And they were looking at a $2 billion spend. And they spent $750,000 on these little wavelets. And within a short period of time, they were more than 90% in compliance.
Wow.
And they avoided $2 billion worth of CapEx.
Oh my gosh.
Little things like that, little success stories like that. Now, that was an EPA forced result, but that's where I think the power of AI comes in. It takes your infrastructure, makes it more efficient, back to what we were talking about, capital, but then makes you rethink how you're looking at your system. And I think there's a lot of good intelligence out there. It's just how do you, a lot of these systems, and again, it works easier inside of industry where you actually have people who are looking for AI solutions, who actually can deal with AI solutions, who actually have control and the bandwidth to do it, versus sometimes a municipality that just doesn't have that.
I know. Yeah. That worries me a little bit in the municipal market. Does the divide get bigger? The innovation divide get bigger just because of existing processes, or quite frankly, legalese that prevents them from adopting things like AI? Like, so for example, just as we're starting to see AI pop up in contract language, in that my data cannot in any way be associated with, and it's just, putting these blanket clauses in contracts, I feel like is just very limiting, potentially limiting for the adoption of, use cases that can actually help them. Do you have any advice in terms of like what may need to happen in order to allow municipalities to adopt AI technologies? With your attorney hat on?
I put my attorney hat on, yeah. I think it really starts with the way the system is set up right now. It's a reactive system.
Correct, right.
I'm told what to do. You have to have people who are willing to say, okay, it's time for a change. I get a lot of criticism. I was on the President's National Infrastructure Advisory Council. And we came out with a report, and there's a piece in there that talks about the need for private capital to come in. Call it P3. Call it infrastructure.
Public-private partnerships.
I think those terms have been so overused right now. We've got to find different terms for that. The old term was privatization. Nobody wants to talk privatization. It works around the rest of the world, affirmage and everything. The rest of the world works really well. We have a little bit of a negative connotation associated with it that I don't know is the right way to look at it. But it starts with rethinking how these are owned, where the value comes in, and where at the end of the day it's not just reactive; it's an active, actively managed system that you do with every business.
That's right.
And I'm not casting aspersions on the municipalities. They do a great job. I mean, but you're wrapped inside this environment that needs to reconsider what it's doing.
Could not agree more.
We at Dentons, we sponsor the Rethinking Water Conference.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have an infrastructure think tank group that looks at all these things differently. I think having those sorts of approaches goes back to what you and I were talking about before. I don't want you to look at the water coming out of your tap the same way. You need to think about it alternatively, to where you actually talk about efficiencies.
That's right.
Safety is vitally important. Absolutely vitally important.
Table stakes.
But we've had so much go wrong on the infrastructure side. What is it? We have a major water main break every minute in the United States, something like that.
Yeah.
You got to do something different. You've got a lot of systems that are pre-World War I wooden pipes. And to say that's good enough,
it's tough.
The right answer.
I've with one of our previous guests too. I was just talking about the difficult part with the IIJA Act was that so much of its focus was on water quality, which is good, lead, PFAS, those kind of things. But the next bill, whatever comes next, I believe personally has to be built on the data set of assets. What are the critical assets? What's the consequence of failure? But to get there, we really need to standardize the way that we measure and report that, so that we can actually, so we can actually say, hey, the cost of not doing something is this, and here's how much it will take to invest, where it's not as much of a guess, and it actually becomes actionable to say, where would you prioritize the action?
So two different things. So first of all, we've got to get away from headline news. The headline news, Flint, Michigan,
Right.
Jackson, Mississippi,
Yep.
Cape Town, South Africa, Baghdad, moving away from where they are right now. Those are real headline grabbers. But I think you need to move in a direction that is away from headlines and bringing it back to, how do I actually resolve the issues?
Right.
And that's a big discussion. We talked, at the President's Infrastructure Advisory Council about the role of capital.
Okay.
We talked about the role of infrastructure investors. You go to the
IIJA,
ABC,
DIL, whatever. Yeah.
And you were saying, oh my, look at what we looked at from a regulatory standpoint. That was a $1.9 trillion spend. How much of that was in water?
Oh, right.
55 billion.
I was going to say,
It was 55 billion.
55.
Which one of the infrastructures can you live
Right.
without? All of them except water.
Yeah.
So we're still, even at the top level, lacking the quality of funds. We have WIFIA. We used to do,
and I'm with you on the headline piece, because the headline was, this is the biggest investment we've ever made in water, but it's not even,
I don't even think it's a down payment.
close.
So
right.
It's not even close to what's needed.
EPA itself says there's 800 billion in immediate need for infrastructure improvements in water.
Spread 55 billion out and call it
You've had
call it done.
you look at presidential candidates, and they say it's $1 trillion spend.
Yeah.
I've seen reports that Southeast the ASEAN countries, by the year 2050, I believe it is, they're going to need $50 trillion in infrastructure for water infrastructure improvements. It's a case for large infrastructure investment, but it's also a case in the U.S. at least at looking at how we're doing these sorts of things, and there is a role, I believe, for not just government can't fix everything.
I agree.
It's too big.
It's too
The
big.
issues are just too big for governments to do it. If you look at it by volume, industry uses 10x residential by volume.
Yep.
If you're going to spend money on it, maybe industry needs to spend the money on infra, and it's for their infra. Maybe they look at water differently. What is it? I was giving a presentation, a municipal bond infrastructure finance presentation, and after the presentation, this woman came up and grabbed my arm and pulled me aside. And she introduced herself. She was the CFO of a large municipal system where they had just announced that there was a $30 billion chip plan coming in. And she explained to me, hey, I want to talk to you.
Yep.
What's that about? Well, I'm the CFO of this water system. You heard that this company is coming in, spending $30 billion. People think we're water rich. We don't have the water.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's industry, and the chip plants are a big piece of that as well. We talked about hyperscalers. Chip plants use a ton of water.
Yeah.
They make the cleanest water on the face of the earth.
That's right.
Yet they have some of the most complex wastes on the back. Screams for recycle, recirc, but also the use of that water is taken away from other considerations. But industry, I think, is like I said, is 10x by volume.
Yeah.
So we could actually talk about 10x our time together. But I always, want to end on a wild card kind of question that makes us think very big and think.
Do I get a wild card answer?
Yeah, you can. Yes, that's what I mean. I'm expecting a wild card. I mean, we talk about rethinking. So, Damian, if you were to rethink 10 years from now, and we're on the path to bridging our infrastructure gap, right? What would that look like? I mean, if you could wave a magic wand, what do you think that actually looks like? If you could rethink
So that's a great question. I'll answer it a couple different ways. Number one, you've probably heard of NEOM
Yes.
in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
They said, let's redesign everything, right, for the line. Now, forget about the criticisms and all that, but one of the things they did was rethink how they were doing water. And you got into the whole recycle, recirc, reuse, desalination, using clean energy, because the biggest cost in desalination is energy. And so I think that really is kind of like a how you would do it. I think from a built infrastructure, I think you've got to roll into a looking at how we manage these systems, how we value water, and how you're going to deliver that water. For example, and again, it's there's an instinctual revulsion to this, but recycle, recirc in your home.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I'm there. No, I agree. I know. I would love to see a world in which you see that in Indiana. You know what I mean? I feel like if that would actually become practice, or even having one person. Oh, maybe we should do that, Isaac. We should do that. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, well, the whole carbon footprint. I mean, as you look at the carbon footprint aspect of it and the energy, and if you're concerned about those things, then you got to think about keeping everything in place.
Yeah. Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. I always learn so much and gain even more perspective when we chat, Damian. So if for those would like to get in touch or learn more about what you do and what you're up to, where should we send them?
Send them to my email address, damian.georgino@dentons.com.
And did I mention he's always accessible?
He is.
I got the same 10 digits on my mobile phones for 25 years.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, thank you for all that you do for the industry and for us working in the industry, and we appreciate you.
Oh, certainly. I always enjoy.
Yeah.
Such a good conversation. And thank you all so much for joining the Make Water Work podcast and listening in. We love getting to have these conversations with folks like Damian. And so if you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share, follow, reach out to us, let us know who else you'd love to hear from. And we can't wait to see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Make Water Work podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. We'd love to hear your thoughts and questions. Connect with us on LinkedIn or send us a message. Together, we can make water work for everyone.